Body in the Woods, Chapter 1. Oh, freaking Shaw, I bellowed as I accidentally tried to adjust myself in the car seat. I had closed the door and caught the edge of my worn, thin leather trench coat. My passenger giggled a bit. It was a sharp shrill, almost like a bird would do if it noticed one of its babies was falling from the nest and could do nothing to stop it. The restriction from my coat in the door was keeping me from sliding my body upwards. Normally not a problem, but the seatbelt was cutting against my neck. As I was tugging on the seatbelt and yanking the coat at the same time, she continued to giggle. You cuss weird. Hold on. I barely got the words out of frustration as I hit the stoplight. I was finally able to stop the car and open the door, freeing myself. I guess I could have opened it while driving, but that somehow would have added more chaos to my fumbling. And with my luck, I'd probably have fallen out and gotten slammed from behind from a driver or some such nonsense. Safety first, you know. I pulled into the parking lot. And? She inquired, looking intensely into my eyes. There was an awkward pause. I was winding down from my Greco-Roman wrestling match with a seatbelt and coat, so we just stared blankly at each other for a few seconds. Oh, yeah, cussing. I told her the story of when I was little, from a rough neighborhood, and I started cussing at a young age, probably before I started walking. Very horrible for a kid so young, and nothing could curb my behavior. In desperation, my mother took to putting a bar of soap in my mouth whenever she heard me cuss. Sometimes she would stick it in my mouth while I was in the corner. If I was lucky, it was fresh and didn't have that slushy residue on the bottom they get when they sit in a puddle of water in the soap holder. Dry on the top, mushy on the bottom. Luckily, I never got the really dry, split, cracked top variety of bar soap that sat unused too long. She was never really mean about it, unless I really deserved it. That usually consisted of cussing at a person, or in front of a nun or my grandparents or something like that. In which case, she would scrape the soap on my top two incisor teeth when she would extract it from my mouth. The taste was awful because you had to spend the next few minutes trying to get the soap off your teeth. The taste was horrible, and water didn't help either. It just made it worse. So to this day, I get a soapy taste and sensation in my mouth if I cuss. Thanks, Mom. The explanation was helping my passenger to be distracted. I think it was helping. Poor Angelique. I felt bad for her. Were you a bad kid? She inquired, holding back tears. No, I don't think so. We were all just stubborn. Spanking or grounding never deterred us from anything. Hell, my brother would just laugh. So I think my mom was forced to rationalize with us. If it made sense, we stopped doing whatever we were doing wrong. But I guess not cussing ever made sense to me. They're just words. So it was soap in the mouth that did the trick. Whatever works. She barely got the words out. The tears came. I don't know. I paid it off, and I don't know why. I started searching on the Missouri case site. I didn't really know what to do. This was only our third date. I had picked her up to run a few errands. About an hour into it, her father called and said there were 4 cop cars there. They came into their house looking for her. She had a fine about 12 years ago. She said she had paid it off, so she didn't know why there should be cops looking for her. Her mascara was running in 2 streaks down her face. I noticed how gravity made the contours of her cheeks look like hills with onyx rivers flowing. Part of my lifelong social problems probably stem from both my stubbornness and my passion for art. I should have been more empathetic to her distress and her current plight, but I was fascinated by the shape of her cheeks and how they interacted with the black ink migrating delicately towards her chin. For the past 3 weeks, I've been furiously drawing, sketching, and painting her. Girls really don't like that. I think perhaps they may mistake my obsession with art to an obsession with them, and it scares them off, which is fine by me. Mostly dating is just discovering I'm not compatible with most people. By then, though, I've memorized every divot in their face, how their bodies move, how their joints interact with their clothing, and how the different lights bounce off their skin. The ride back to the tattoo shop sucked. I felt bad about leaving Angelique at the police department, but I didn't know her well enough to even go in with her. She told me to drop her off, so I did as I was told. Just odd that there was no information, and she seemed a bit befuddled about it. There was a car in my lot when I got there. I tattoo by appointment only, for good reason. Too many crazies and druggies these days. So instead of pulling in my lot, I pulled into the gas station across the street. You know, it is my gas station, the one I always frequent. The people who work there know me well. I'm there all the time getting coffee. Black coffee and cigarettes are my addictions. So they know my brands. I've been called paranoid, but I'm really not. I'm overly cautious. Stories for another time. What I can do cause one to be cautious. Never know who is dropping by unannounced, and that is the problem. Surprises aren't really a lot of fun most of the time. I noticed a guy was dressed in trying to look professional get up. It's horrible. Fake nice shoes. Younger guy, so dark slacks instead of khaki pants that the older guys that don't care anymore wear. He was carrying a laptop, so I knew he was either a city or state official. They used to carry clipboards, but times have changed. I used to tell clients that I can go into any bad neighborhood. I just have to dress in khakis and carry a clipboard, and people would just think I'm a child protective service worker, and anyone up to no good would just scatter. The gas station workers are good to me, for the most part. I don't cause problems. Well, a few times. But I'm usually chill with them. This is actually how I met Angelique. She was training, and the gal who was training her, that I also tattoo on, brought her by. The bosses couldn't decide if she was just odd or if she was on drugs. I've always been good at addressing dangers, so her trainer brought her by to get my opinion, I guess. Angelique was definitely not on drugs nor odd. She was smart, smarter than her bosses. She has a vast vocabulary and thinks and talks very quickly. She makes associations with words that most people don't get, let alone understand, so I can see why they would think the worst. They used to accuse me of the same thing until I learned how to slow down my speech and dumb down my vocabulary. People who can't understand your references also can't usually admit their mental shortcomings, so they think something must be wrong with you. I clicked with Angelique right off the bat, very easily, and we ended up banting back and forth for half an hour. It was like machine gun fire. Her trainer just sat there. Everything was over her head. I thought about her tears a little bit more as I watched the guy leave my parking lot. He had taped something to my door. I went across and looked at it. I tossed the paper on the counter when I got in. It was from the fire marshal. The electric company has been harassing me since I shut the electricity off 3 years ago, and I still managed to stay in business. This was just another attempt from them. He taped the note on the wrong door. Part of my cautionary movements has been to have a main door, but I use a side door and back room for my tattoo shop. It is only me these days, so I know that if someone is at the other door, they are either uninvited or haven't been here before, and it's easier to weed out the unwelcome that way. Because you get a mix. Inspectors, drug addicts, homeless people, solicitors, people wanting to talk about tattoos as opposed to giving me money for one. And even worse, every once in a while, some woman's boyfriend or husband will come looking for his girl. The shadier women try to flirt or hit on you while you are tattooing them, and it never fails. They're not really interested in you. It's just that when a woman or girl breaks up with her guy or is going through some rough waters, they come here to get a tattoo. Yeah, get a tattoo and try to assert dominance over their significant other. I avoid it, but no matter how you try, some jealous guys every 1 3 months thinks his girl is cheating on him. Not sure what they tell them, but it makes my life suck. So it's easier if they just don't have access to me. A cool down time is always best for when the trash heats up. That and a 9mm. Never had to pull it, but angry or drug-riddled dudes usually calm down a bit if they see it in your belt strap. A horrible way to diffuse a situation, but it's better than getting thrashed by the trash. The note, when I opened it up, was wanting the fire marshal to inspect. He's full of it. But luckily, I'm tatting Scott this week. Great Scott, I call him. It irritates him. Scott was in the military and Coast Guard. He doesn't seem like the type. He isn't an imposing guy, not a jerk nor a bootlicker. He's just addicted to adrenaline. Recently, he joined the city police force. I told him how disappointed I was in his choice. If it was too late for me to not like him, but apparently it is. I've been tattooing him for 3 years, a lot of sleeve work. So you get to know a guy pretty well. You end up talking about generic things at first, but as time rolls by, clients come when they have bad times. It helps them, so you end up hearing about, heavy things that happen in people's lives. And they end up hearing all about your bad times as well. After a few years, you get that facade of trust and closeness with them. And I know Scott is a decent guy. Definitely won't last long on a corrupt law enforcement agency. Not that they're all corrupt, but people are people. People with power abuse the power to benefit themselves. And it's just human nature. I don't see Scott doing shady things, but I really can't predict what he would do if he knew people around him were. Regardless, my plan is to complain to Scott. He will see my solar battery get up, and we'll tell the guy it is safe. At least that's how it should work, but I have to make it safe first. My arms felt like worthless jelly. My fingers were sore. I spent the morning carrying heavy marine batteries from the front area to the back of the shop, around 20 of them in total. They would not pass inspection as they were. They were horizontal, exposed. If a metal antenna, bar, or cat laid across it, it would have sparked. Not that I have any of those things laying around, but I did have a metal locker with metal compartments that I could put them in for safety reasons. The metal locker is left over from a gym I had never built, so I decided to put the batteries in there and hook them up the way for safety. I read online that they had to be in a metal box, and I wasn't about to let the electric company win. I wrote my apprentice, Emily, to ask for help moving them. She said she was helping her girlfriend's aunt's cousin or some crap like that. Then she told me to just get the electricity turned on. Ugh, that irritated me. I would rather die than bend a knee to corruption. The electric company in the college town I'm in is a non-profit, which is code for all my friends and family that are board members make a crap ton of money and pay very little taxes. I don't mind paying for services, but once I know a company is corrupt and they blatantly lie and steal from me, I tend to dig my heels in. It is worse when it is a utility or water company, because those are human necessities, and people can die without them. So there, with that, it just makes the corruption even worse. More personal, close to home. Once I got sick of their crap, I had them shut it off and give me my deposit back. They looked at me like I was stupid. They're used to people being scared and complying, or at least complaining but complying. But no way, I don't have to play their game. I just had it shut off. I sat in the dark for a few hours before deciding my next plan that day. So I hung solar panels and brought marine grade lead batteries, hooked up an inverter. It has been a rough 3 years, but I won't submit to tyranny. Most of the apprentices thought me to be stupid, but a tornado hit last year and half the town was out of power for 3 days except for me. I tattooed the day after the tornado, made money while others were sitting in the dark. I had just about gotten the power wall hooked up for Scott to see when I heard a knocking at the main door. It was a girl about in her 30s. She didn't seem too sketchy, so I opened the door. It was Angelique's sister. She told me that Angelique needed my number and gave me the name of the app to download so I could put money in her account in order to talk to her. I was a bit confused. I thought it was an unpaid ticket or something that she was in trouble for. The sister told me it was better if Angelique let me know what was happening herself. So I went ahead and downloaded the app and put 20 on it. And a few hours later, Angelique called. They're extraditing me to Arkansas. What? They're charging me with first-degree murder.